All right, everyone, we have to start off talking today about dead babies and other war propaganda. As you can see, my area here is a little bit akimbo at the moment. I've got to refine things some, although I do kind of like having like plants everywhere. In fact, I wish I could have 10 times as many. Imagine you have a recording studio, but it's also like a spring house or something. That's sort of the vibe that I want to go with in the future, like 10 times as many plants, just shelf after shelf of plants, and then some books, preferably out of the way so they don't get, dripped on. And have like 10 humidifiers in there too. Computer won't last long, but at least it'll be comfy and remind me of spring all the time. Anyway, we're going to talk about war propaganda. And it's definitely a pertinent subject right now with regards to, well, first Ukraine versus Russia. We've seen plenty of that. For instance, if you think that the chimpanzee Putin meme was organic and isn't likely to have been created by somebody in politics or intel and then carefully fed out through the right channels, I think that there's some astroturfing going on there, and Russia certainly creates its own dank meme supply. You do have a cyber war going on right now, and it's a psychological war. And while it seems funnier than in the past and there's full audience participation, it's funny to watch the public, by the way, deliberately creating propaganda for various state and non-state entities. It's still psyops. It's the same thing. It's just different technologies being employed. You no longer have mainly people reading newspapers or getting, their information so-called from cable TV. You get it from the internet, by and large. Twitter is a battlefield right now. The huge, biggest fog of war propaganda I'm seeing. There's fog of war, and then there's the dehumanization aspect. It really has to do with Palestine and Israel, though. It's already leapfrog. The amount of propaganda that I'm seeing is already several times greater than, like, even when there's obviously a surge of material being created by Ukrainian or Russian forces or their backers. It's already dwarfed that, actually. Blinken coming out the other day, by the way. We'll be investigating that similarly in one of today's exclusives. Make sure, by the way, if you're watching on YouTube, to follow me on the other sites that I'll pin down in the pinned comment if you're watching on YouTube. Because some people thought, for about a week there that I had disappeared off the face of the earth because I couldn't get my computer working, had to get it repaired, had to get a new laptop actually, and couldn't get onto my Google account, so because I was a dumbass, didn't back up my backup codes. Remember, I'm now making 2 exclusives a day, not just one, so 50% of your daily dose of Clankdom is on BitChute and Rumble and Odyssey and Minds. It's not on the other sites. By the way, the speed here, 100 times faster than in Rutland, so I can upload to these other sites and not sit there for literally 6 hours a day. The biggest propaganda, though, that I've seen is the dead babies claim. It is still not entirely clear what happened with that. You saw days ago, they came out and said that the Palestinians, when they crossed over, the Hamas members, paragliding over the border and tunneling under it and so forth, a huge attack, by the way, is certainly the largest since the 70s, that they were beheading babies. And it reminded me an awful lot of the claims of I believe it was Saddam's forces turning off incubators when they invaded Kuwait, I believe. That was back in the 90s. And then it turned out that the chick that had made the claim to Congress, specifically that had happened, it was war propaganda, was literally an ambassador's daughter and had ties to an outside group that was funding sort of a Kuwaiti campaign. And so basically a war was partially predicated upon an outright lie. The events never happened. It was literal propaganda. I would be surprised, in this particular case, I'd be surprised if Hamas didn't kill a bunch of babies. I mean, we do know that children will get caught in the crossfire, even if you don't mean to kill them. There will always be rape in war. We're hearing that Hamas basically raped everybody that they captured and slaughtered and tortured them. Of course they did. There's no question in my mind that there's been war rape going on both sides of the border, because unfortunately that happens all too commonly in war. What the propaganda aspect is you extrapolate from a certain number of cases. So let's say there are 10 instances. If you can get footage of just one of those, you can say, oh, this is happening regularly. I mean, it's literally, there are 10 people getting raped just on this street, so there's like thousands of people. You don't know the real number. The unfortunate part about this particular propaganda is even though people are being fed a falsehood, though, the counter will be, if you're pre-inclined to support the side making that propaganda, you'll be pre-inclined to say, well, it doesn't matter how many cases happened, and therefore, basically, you're pro-Hamas in that particular case. Or you'll see like a 5-year-old video of Israel shelling something with white phosphorus. It's not necessarily even in Gaza. And it gets recycled. I'm seeing a lot of that. Huge amount of footage from prior encounters, sometimes not even involving Israel and Palestine. There was one picture, someone was claiming, oh, here's the Israeli forces, and here's the Hamas member they've arrested, and it was from Estonia, or something like that. Huge amount of material that's misattributed, huge amount of material that's outdated, huge amount of material that's selectively edited, huge amount of material that is, at this point, AI-based, by the way. By the way, AOC's farting video earlier is not AI, and it's not out of context. It was posted by her literal account. We'll be talking about that in a possible live stream later. I'm sure that I'll get to it today. We could use a little bit more humor, considering we're talking about Hamas decapitating babies. So here's the long and short of it. This is war. The Israelis and Hamas and Palestinian guerrillas and Hezbollah fighters and all other involved parties are going to do terrible things. There are no innocents in this particular encounter other than civilians getting splattered because they happen to be in the wrong place at the wrong time and they have the wrong color garments on, the wrong headgear for religious purposes, or they just went to the wrong religious structure to worship. Those people are blameless. That means Israelis, it means Palestinians, there's been crossfire across several other regional borders, which risks escalating, by the way. People getting killed there that are not combatants are innocents. The people that are involved with the fighting themselves, some of them are going to go off the reservation, even if they're given commands to fight in a moral manner, which, I mean, come on, it's war. There's no such thing. It's just a matter of how savage you're being, effectively. That's the whole point. The whole point is to rip the enemy a new asshole, and sometimes people, they've doped up the soldiers. Hamas allegedly does this, so does Ukraine, supposedly. I'd be surprised if there weren't plenty of drugs on all sides, by the way. Roid rage sets in. The benzos give out. You're going through withdrawal, you get a little bit grumpy, and then you get a My Lai massacre. Otherwise, decent human beings in a situation where they're under constant threat of death, they're basically, in their mind, they're saying, hey, at any point I could die, and I'm on dextro and shit like that. They're going to go haywire sometimes. And then you're going to get commands, especially by lower commanders, just wipe them out. I'm sick of this shit. No, these villagers here, I strongly suspect that they're hiding Hamas members. Better just fucking drop the bombs here. Whoops, we gave the wrong coordinates. Water under the bridge. Hamas members, they go into a village. All they see are a bunch of fucking Jews. And so they say, well, they're breeding more of the enemy. Kill the babies. Yeah, things like that unfortunately happen. The problem is that each individual claim made is so likely to be spurious. Again, out of context, outdated, has nothing to do with the current arrangement. What are the death tolls, for example, on either side? You get one estimation from Israel about both sides. You get one estimation from Hamas, another estimation from a human rights group, another estimation from the UN, another estimation from the US, another estimation from Russia. Well, fucking which one? They deviate sometimes by thousands of people. What proportion are civilian? What proportion were kids? What proportion were women or men? You don't know. That's the whole problem. Well, we destroyed this block. Were there a bunch of civilians there, or did we successfully get them evacuated before we blew it up because we thought Hamas was using it for a rocket launching platform? Oh, 100 Hamas rockets fell in this neighborhood. Well, how many people successfully got to safety? If the body's vaporized, you could have a pile of vaporized people. It takes a while to figure out how many people. It's like a jigsaw puzzle. Could be 5. But if there were kids there, there's so much vaporized mass laying here steaming on the concrete, it could be 7 or 8 people. That looks like it might have been a pet at some point, so we're not sure. We're going to have to conduct an autopsy, find dental remains and shit like that. So be careful right now about what you listen to and what you believe, because in a lot of these cases, it's really up in the air. We're not sure if Hamas beheaded 40 babies. It could have been 4 babies. Could have been 400 babies. Could have been that they just blew them up indiscriminately. Could be they had no idea that some of the babies were there. Could be they abducted a bunch of babies. I don't know. Neither do you. Neither do the Israelis. Hamas itself, their upper leadership doesn't know the day-to-day goings-on of every single Hamas soldier. The same is true of the IDF. Rogue IDF group crosses the border and massacres a bunch of Palestinians, and IDF doesn't even know anything about it necessarily for weeks on end. They ain't gonna say shit about it unless they have to, by the way, because it would be considered a war crime. So, yeah, it's almost as much a psychological and internet-based war right now as it is one that takes place in the actual streets with mortars and rockets and so forth. And at least half of all of the shit that I'm seeing, including from the legacy media, hell, with them it's more than half, is misinformation of one kind or another. The only thing that I don't think would be a solution is censorship, though, because there's no goddamn alternative, because the legacy media has been doing that just fine all along on its little own lonesome. And so, yeah, I would say it's probably best to just let people hash it out online. You're going to get plenty of AI. You're going to get plenty of disinfo campaigns from state and non-state actors, but that genie's been out of the bottle for a lot longer than the internet has been a public phenomenon anyway. That's about all. Peace out.